do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe. And also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Welcome to Skiba News Nation, bringing you unfiltered views, news, interviews, discussions, and more. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Skiba, award-winning musician and son of Rob Skiba.
With the son of the legendary Rob Skiba. Jeremiah Skiba, what's up?
With my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Graham. It's like they don't even want to wake up.
He's on a quest for truth.
Something huge is coming. We're building the world's largest truther convention. It's called TrutherCon.
This is the place where truthers unite to explore knowledge, ask tough questions, to challenge the mainstream narrative.
But it isn't just a convention. It's a movement for free thought, open discussion, and the right to question everything.
We are bringing in some of the biggest names of the truther community, so expect deep discussions, mind-blowing revelations, and connections with like-minded truth seekers.
If you feel like the truth is being hidden from you, this is where you need to be.
And the best part, it's 100% grassroots, built by truthers for truthers, straight from our Skiba News Nation family. TrutherCon will be a massive networking event. I believe this is going to be the most exciting truther event ever.
October 2025 in Dallas, Texas. We hope to see you there. Hey Skiba News Nation family, welcome to episode 117 of Skiba News Nation, your weekly source of the latest news, controversial topics, conspiracies, forgotten history, and so much more, including Charlie. I'm your host Jeremiah Skiba, and today we're going to be talking about crazy weather all over the world, Trump getting rid of income tax, the direwolf being brought back to life, who's controlling RFK, something weird is falling from the sky in Florida, stadium worshipping Satan, declassified documents prove Hitler escaped to Argentina, an all-new Opus Corner. For History's Mysteries, we're going to be talking about the Phil Spector story, from music icon to murderer, volume 15 of Please Excuse My Sense of Humor, memes, and much more. As always, I'd like to introduce my great and insightful co-host, Mr. Jake Grant. Welcome, Jake. What's up, man?
That's a whole eye load of cat butt right in the camera, right at the start of our episode. We're starting it off hot. So watch out, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot of cat butt hanging around here.
Give you toxoplasmosis through the camera. Let's go.
Oh no! Oh no! Hey man, I'm doing great. We're leading up to the Passover this weekend and starting unleavened bread. So my family and we're camping out. I'm gonna have some cool behind-the-scenes live footage from the festival out here in southern Missouri. We're gonna have hundreds of people out. It's gonna be fantastic. Yeah, man, other than that, we've packed up and left the now flooding state of Kentucky, and we've moved all our stuff out here to southern Missouri, where we have our camper life plugged in, and it's all good, man. We're doing good, but we did dodge a bullet with that big flood in Kentucky. It's almost like they ramped the HARP weather modification to the max, and they're trying to flood Kentucky like crazy. Like it was insane. Like the roads in and out towards where we lived were totally flooded over. We couldn't get a U-Haul for like a couple days because there was no way to get through certain areas. But it cleared up enough for us to get out of there and And now, you know, turning over a new leaf over here and starting it off right with the big Passover festival.
I'm glad you're safe, man.
Me too.
Well, you got some good current news for me today?
Yeah, we do. Let's get into it.
Let's roll.
So, you know, I shared some little scenes there of Kentucky flooding like crazy, and many of you have probably heard of the famous Ark encounter over in Kentucky. Well, Kentucky isn't so dumb now, are we? Okay, yeah. Anyways, yeah, man, it's been pretty crazy weather patterns lately. You're having Tornado Alley shift over to the right and away, passing up through southwestern Tennessee and into Kentucky now is becoming the new Tornado Alley, it seems like. And I know like 2 or 3 years ago, that really big record-setting 300-mile long traveling tornado went all the way through Kentucky. It actually passed through our neck of the woods, and that was several years ago. But it's interesting to me, the weather patterns that we've been seeing quite recently. Trends that have been crazy, record-breaking weather, and I saw some suspicious observer type material of solar activity and how these massive coronal holes are pointing energy at the earth or whatever. And I don't know exactly how directly correlated the solar activity is, because I've seen some big solar flare pictures recently. But I was a big fan of the Suspicious Observer over on YouTube, and he would break down how whenever those sunspots point towards the earth, whatever area of the earth that sunspot is directly pointed towards, generally there's some kind of correlation to weather patterns and earthquakes, and I know, you know, that's just one of the plausible theories. Other than that, you know, we have towers all over the U.S. lighting up like beacons in the night, shooting energy waves into the atmosphere. Whether they're trying to stop these crazy weather patterns or they're making them worse, that's up to you two to decide. But we have some other news here. The tragic collapse of a what looks like a nightclub in the Dominican Republic took out some former Major League Baseball players. I wondered if you'd heard about this, Jeremiah. This is what the story says. Over 200 dead, including former MLB pitcher Octavio Dotel, after a roof collapses at the Dominican Republic nightclub. So pretty ominous, you know, news there.
Oh man. Oppo, was Octavia, was that the guy with 6 fingers on each hand? That
no,
name
he
sounds
was from I thought Venezuela or something like that.
Oh my goodness, look at that. I guess they were all in there raising the roof, you know, and the roof fell on them. So
Yep.
collapsed. Yeah, tragic. Ooh man. So a tribute posted to the Instagram account. So Perez is another guy. So former MLB players among those killed. This is Octavio Dotel, and oh man, everybody's super sad. I just wanted to point out that this is a really large number. 200 dead from one roof collapse. They must have been crammed into that building, and then it just suddenly fell. Pretty tragic. Let's check this video report out.
Dominican Republic as authorities move to a recovery phase. Victor Kendo has the latest on that. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning, George. There's the Jet Set nightclub. Crews once again working straight through the night. This is the area where family has been waiting, praying, and hoping police call out their loved one's name. This morning, the round-the-clock operation in Santo Domingo after a roof collapsed on a crowded nightclub. Now a recovery mission. The death toll now rising to at least 218, with more than 150 others injured. It's still too early to determine the cause of the collapse. This video circulating online showing a merengue band performing on stage, a man pointing to the roof saying something fell. Then this happened. Members of that band killed. Also among the deceased, 2 former Major League Baseball players, Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco. Blanco, according to reports, saved one of his former teammates by pushing him out of the way of falling debris. Hall of Fame pitcher Pedro Martinez saying Tuesday members of his family were there.
I still have family members that are still on the ruggles, and we don't know what happened to them.
We are just across the street from the Jet Set nightclub, and this is what this area has looked like for 2 days now. The majority of people that you see around me here, family members, desperate for word on their loved ones, were still missing.
Ivan Suero Segura making it out alive, telling us pieces of the roof fell right next to her and even hit her.
Cayó cerca de ti.
Sí,
It fell close to you.
En las piernas.
She's still waiting for news on other relatives still missing.
Authorities say right now the focus is on recovery before shifting entirely into the investigation to determine how this could have happened. Rebecca?
Just searching for some answers there. Okay.
Oh man, very, very tragic event there in the Dominican Republic, and it's really shocking to see when what people would trust, man-made structures start to sway and wobble and collapse in a lot of situations. And this story brings to mind something that happened last week. Very, very traumatic earthquakes that happened in Bangkok, Thailand. Some of the images you guys are going to see and now correlate the death toll of the 200 people watching that mariachi perform their last little salut, and what happened here in Bangkok, Thailand, and the likely loss of life that happened when these structures collapsed. And this just happened on the 28th of March. Wow. War, famine, pestilence, and earthquakes in diverse places, if you know what I mean. Pretty shocking 7-point plus earthquake there in Bangkok, Thailand, and a lot of big buildings collapsing. And I would say I saw this clip of a couple that was at the very top of a skyscraper when this earthquake in Thailand hit, and they were in one of those infinity pools, and the waves were like sloshing them back and forth. They could barely get out of the pool, and that was terrifying because the little floats like floated over the edge, and it was just like, oh man, you guys almost died.
And there was a guy in the pool, right?
Video came. Yeah, there was a guy in a pool. You saw that one then.
Yeah.
By the way, that six-fingered pitcher, his name is Antonio Alfonseco. And he pitched for the Rangers for a while too, but he's been retired for quite a while. And he's from the Dominican Republic.
Fun factoid.
Yes, the good old polydactyli. Polydactyli is the term for having 6 fingers and toes. Anyways, I digress. Back to the topic at hand. I saw that video of the gentleman who was in the infinity pool up on the skyscraper, and they get out of the pool, and one of those same infinity pool type situations collapsed during the earthquake, and there's footage of a tsunami wave coming down from the sky and flushing out the streets as one of those infinity pools collapsed during this earthquake, and it's just really shocking footage. But yeah, I just wanted to correlate that collapse that happened in the Dominican Republic and the loss of life there, and what we're seeing in these other places that are struggling with earthquakes and building collapses as well. And man, I don't know the exact death toll, but definitely if you're in an earthquake, what are the rules again? Get under your desk? What was the classroom saying for earthquakes?
Duck and
Get
cover.
under the desk.
Duck and
cover.
Duck and cover. And Opa's Corner had the little desk that you got underneath. It showed it at the end.
Well, I'm glad you're helping educate the next generation to know what to do, because it seems like these crazy phenomena, these earthquakes and stuff, are ramping up. So we all need to be prepared with our ducking and covering. Now, on another news, an earthquake that is of a different manner, a political earthquake that President Trump is trying to instigate with the abolishment of income tax. A very interesting earthquake indeed of a political comparison. Check out this clip of him announcing his intention to abolish income tax.
America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money, and that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?
Hey, I think it makes sense, but what is your opinion on this whole tariff war that's playing out before us, Jeremiah and Opa?
I mean, I think that'd be great if you got rid of the income tax. Opa probably knows more about it than I do.
Well, actually, the income tax, like he said, was back in 1913 is what he said, or 11. But it was done during World War I to fund all of the war, and also it was kept on for World War II. But it was supposed to be a temporary tax, and
not so temporary.
Yeah, and then Congress after World War II said, "Hey, look, guys, a lot of money here. Let's go ahead and continue to collect this stuff, because we can buy all kinds of crap we don't need." But anyway, I think they should do away with it as well. I think they should still continue to tax businesses and stuff, but I don't think the people should be having to pay taxes.
Yeah, it's very, very controversial right now. People hate Trump so much, they're like, "No, tax me to the grave."
Yeah.
What happened? What happened with his hair?
It looks great. Whatever he's doing, I love it.
Yeah, but it looks weird. Looks like he's got little wings on the side.
It's called a wave.
Let's look here. Look, what?
It looks
kind of a wavy.
It's great.
Yeah, did you guys see the recent comparison between Fox news segment and a CNN news segment, where CNN had a very obvious orange filter over Donald Trump, while Fox News just portrayed him as, just an old white guy, right? And it was just so blatant. You could tell, wow, CNN is actually putting their thumb on the scale, making him look orange, because that's what they like to call him.
It's like when Joe Rogan was on and they made him green when he was talking about ivermectin and stuff like that during the certain time that we can't mention.
We're uncovering a conspiracy of chroma colors.
Filters. Filtergate.
Filtergate.
Didn't somebody have a song about chroma color or something like that?
I don't know.
Bernie Madoff.
Paul Simon or Garfunkel? No, it was Simon, I guess.
Ooh, that would be really cool to look at, because they have that very prophetic song, the Sound of Silence, referring to cell phones when they didn't even know about that technology yet, but very interesting. To distract us all, we've been, plugging into our video streaming services, and unfortunately, Disney Plus has transitioned from what allegedly was supposed to be a family-friendly streaming service to now this is what they're showing your 6-year-olds if you choose to subscribe to their service. Big, bold, and blazoned, right above the Disney princesses is dying for sex. And obviously it's an FX production, and Disney is a kind of conglomerate streaming service now where they are including all these other videos and movies and stuff from different producers. A streaming service that is very heavily marketed towards children is demonstrating this on their front landing page. It's like, what the heck are they thinking?
Yeah.
So anyways, that's what your kids are seeing on Disney today. And to break down something funny that leads into our next segment, in the past 10-15 years, something was established in HBO TV shows and other streaming services. Exposition is where you expound on character information, and exposition kind of builds on the story, right? Well, because sex sells, they have created the term sex position, right? Which is where they share sex scenes and people are filling their minds with junk so that they can stay interested as the characters expound on their stories. A figure that kind of really capitalized on this with his book series, The Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, left us a little post about a topic we talked about with a recent guest, the newly resurrected direwolf species, which is a very interesting tie-in with the whole Game of Thrones topic, because in the show, dire wolves were a main theme of the characters, and I'm not suggesting anybody go and watch it by any means unless you enjoy watching pornography, and that's gay. No matter if you're not, it is, right? No. But anyways, let's look here, and he talks a little bit about this topic of the dire wolves. Obviously, the people who revived this species called him up, since he is such a big pop culture figure today in the world. They wanted him to be one of the first guys to really know about it. And this is what he talks about in his article. He says, I promised an exciting announcement in the last blog of mine, the one I wrote last night that went up this morning in my Not a Blog. That part was right, only the date was wrong. Colossus Biosciences out of Dallas had it all lined up so the story would break April 8th in dozens of different magazines all around the world, and of course on the internet. Only it turned out that one of the news outlets jumped the gun and broke the story this morning while everyone else was sleeping. So the rest of the world had no choice but to scramble along afterwards. So D-Day came early on April 7th instead of April 8th. Now, just a quick comment. I think it's very interesting that April 8th is exactly 1 year since the grand American eclipse crossed over the U.S. and they scheduled the release of this information of the fact that they can basically play Jurassic Park on the 1 year anniversary of that sign in the heavens, which is a nod at the whole world now is aware that the genetic manipulation of the code that creates life has now been unlocked completely, and they're now able to revive dead species and create these what I would call abominations, right? But it's a very pre-flood technology that has now been revived into the present. But back to the interesting article about the supposed resurrected direwolf. The direwolf is back, George R.R. Martin says. Extinct for more than 10,000 years, allegedly, but extinct no longer. Thanks to Ben Lamb, George Church, Beth Shapiro, and the rest of their team of mad scientists at Colossal, the world leader in the science of de-extinction. Jurassic Park's just around the corner, guys. You know, you've seen all those movies, how they do it. I met them all in February. Well, that would be telling. And I met Romulus and Remus too. Here's me with Romulus, or maybe Remus. They're twins and hard to tell apart. So the direwolf is apparently much larger than your traditional gray wolf, but they used gray wolf DNA to kind of splice in these extra traits of the older genetic code that they found in some fossils. Colossal announces world's first de-extinction birth of direwolves. The landmark achievement is a scientific breakthrough for global conservation efforts and also allowed for the successful birth of 4 critically endangered red wolves through novel non-invasive cloning technology. How did they do it? Picture of colossal direwolves. Colossus Biosciences, the world's only de-extinction company, today announces the rebirth of the once extinct direwolf, the world's first successful de-extinction animal. The direwolf, largely assumed to be a legendary creature made famous from the HBO hit series Game of Thrones, was an American canid that had previously been extinct for over 12,500 years. The successful birth of 3 direwolves is a revolutionary milestone of scientific progress that illustrates another leap forward in Colossal's de-extinction technologies and is a step on the pathway to the de-extinction of other target species. Additionally, Colossal has birthed 2 litters of cloned red wolves, the most critically endangered wolf in the world. Using a new approach to non-invasive blood cloning, the birth of red wolves provides further evidence of the link between de-extinction efforts and the company's growing capacity to support conservation efforts globally through de-extinction technology innovation. This news comes on the heels of recent announcements for the colossal woolly mouse, which previously held the record for unique germline edits in an animal with 8 precision edits. With the direwolves, Colossal has made 20 unique precision germline edits, including 15 edits from the ancient gene variants that have not existed in over 12,000 years, setting a new bar for precision germline editing in any animal. I could not be more proud of the team, the massive milestone of the first of many coming examples demonstrating that our end-to-end de-extinction technology stack works, said CEO of Colossal Ben Lamb. Our team took DNA from a 13,000-year-old tooth and a 72,000-year-old skull and made a healthy direwolf puppies. It was once made healthy direwolf puppies. It was once said any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Today, our team gets to unveil some of the magic they are working on and its broader impact on conservation. All right, so I'm going to end it there, and you guys can do some further research on this de-extinction technology. But my initial thoughts are, it's a very interesting way of presenting to this to the world. It's every good convincing ploy has to be packaged in a pretty box, right? And so we've already heard that through AI technology, they're intending to start tapping into the human genome and unlocking the cure to cancer or solving the problem of death, right, so to speak. And you have to have it introduced to the public in a very altruistic way, right? Oh, we're just de-extincting things. We're doing good for the world. And the technology is mind-blowing. Just the fact that they're able to splice genetic code from 2 species, the timeline and all that is very interesting, coming from a biblical perspective, but anyways, it's all very interesting, and this is all stuff your dad talked about to extreme lengths, where it was the corruption of all flesh, likening today to the days of Noah, where the ancients had this ability to create these mixed creatures, and the world was wiped out with a flood. And now we're seeing the rise of this technology in the modern age, which is very reminiscent of the very thing that caused the world to need to be destroyed thousands of years ago, according to the biblical narrative, of course. But very interesting. What do you guys think of the fact that they have resurrected a extinct species, and that they're likely going to be creating Jurassic Park any day now?
Well, I think the woolly mammoth was supposed to be, I mean, they've been talking about that forever. They excavated a baby woolly mammoth, and it was bleeding. Like it was still in like perfect condition, so they were able to get DNA from that. And I've been hearing about that for like almost 5 years now, and nothing's ever happened. And then they keep saying, oh, well, the woolly mammoth is coming soon. And that's what I want to see, just firsthand, like what they look like, and then we can kill it and, you know, be done with it, you know?
Sorry, I was going to just joke and say, I can't wait to bring back all the extinct animals that we can eat, right?
Yep.
See what that ancient deer species tasted like that our forefathers hunted, right?
Right.
Yeah, I understand they're opening a Jurassic Park in Frisco somewhere.
Yeah, it's a Universal Studios kids resort.
You can tell where they're headed with it as well, because their name literally has the word colossal. Colossal is big. Biosciences, right? So it makes me wonder, are we going to be seeing some T-Rex crazy creatures and resurrecting these megafauna like giant crocodiles and all kinds of stuff? And it's literally the Jurassic Park narrative playing out in real time. What was Jurassic Park came out in 1999, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how they described doing it in the movie, where they would take frog genes and fill in the blanks so that they could create basically frog dinosaurs. And oh man, that's exactly what's happening with this. And I don't pretend to understand the science behind it, but just like they said, advanced science is almost indistinguishable from magic, right? Well, they're just definitely playing God with this one.
For sure.
Speaking of colossal creatures and things that are basically magic looking, check out this drone show, King Kong in New York City. This is pretty cool, guys. Look at this.
Yeah, that's a different angle than the one that Opus showed me. I didn't know if it was close to the building or not, but man.
Somebody get this angry ape a banana real quick. Man, that is super cool. Just crazy to think of what they're going to be doing in the heavens in just a couple years. Like, once these drones can start projecting like holographic light shows and stuff, and they're not just filling a pixel space, man, we're going to be seeing like movies in the sky.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, it's going to be bigger than fireworks, for sure.
When I was a kid, I remember watching movies in the sky. They were projecting something on the clouds when it was a cloudy night, and they would project something like advertising and stuff onto the bottom of the clouds.
Wow, kind of like the bat signal?
Yeah, kind of like that. I guess they decided that wasn't very cost effective anymore, but of course you had to wait for a cloudy night.
Well, they have cloud seeding now, so they could do it whenever.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, that's true. Yeah, I'm done with drive-ins. I want to go to cloud-ins. This next redacted segment that I wanted to share is the question of what's happened to RFK and his whole Make America Healthy Again motto. Is somebody controlling him? What's the current news on that? And then we're going to look at some of the things he said leading up to his becoming the health secretary. But check this out.
Happening with RFK Jr. at the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, he made a lot of promises on the campaign trail as it regards to health, like human health, not mental health so much as real health. He promised us to get fluoride out of the water because that has been named a known toxin. He promised to focus on food dyes, additives in medicine, real studies around the pharmaceuticals that are pushed on the American public. But instead, he's focused on anti-Semitism as a public health issue. And I'm just so confused at this. So I'd like us to look at this together. I want to do I have a good news and bad news so that, we don't all get too mad. So let's start with the good news. The good news is that ProPublica is reporting that the National Institute of Health will no longer be funding work on the health effects of climate change. Now, ProPublica is pretty pissed off about this, but I'm not. They call it catastrophic and devastating, but where has research like this led us to only more misinformation like this from ProPublica? As extreme weather events such as hurricanes, heat waves, wildfires, and floods continue to intensify and become more frequent, researchers are increasingly examining the impact climate change has on public health. Only most of that is demonstrably wrong. Extreme weather events have gone down. Weather deaths have gone down drastically. The most extreme weather events took place not recently. The strongest landfall wind hurricane was in 1935. The largest rainfall hurricane was Hurricane Easy, 1945. The worst storm to hit California was in 1961. The Earth has experienced at least 2 global warming periods and recovered from both without public policy. So I can send you any of this research if you'd like to see it. Now, a spokesperson for the Department of Health and Human Services said this: well, we are dedicated to restoring our agencies to the tradition of upholding gold standard evidence-based science. As we begin to make America healthy again, it's important to prioritize research that directly affects the health of Americans. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. They're telling us they are interested in only real research on human health, the body, right? Cellular health. That's what we're talking about. The health of Americans. Why is this a priority? One of the few things that Secretary Kennedy has announced since taking office. Look, instead of inspiring universal condemnation, the October 7th Holocaust triggered a global wave of anti-Semitism. Ivy League campuses became a greenhouse for poison. Poison. Remember, he told us about poison in the food, not in the air. But okay. President Trump has ordered his cabinet to use every constitutional tool to uproot this divisive weed. I'm glad Columbia has agreed to this first step. So let's ignore the word Holocaust so we don't get distracted by that semantic. What he's saying is that the HHS threatened Columbia University with money and they capitulated. And now the HHS can control the academic agenda. So how do we know that anti-Semitism is a public health issue? He promised that he would do research on everything that he declared public health issue because of the COVID pandemic. So now he's saying this without proof. Like, you told us poison was in our food, was in our water, not in the air, an idea that's poison. This is a poisonous idea. Now, Republicans refute that racism is a public health issue when it comes to Black and Hispanics. Why is it now when it comes to Jewish people? You can't have it both ways. This is the language of neo-racists. We talked about that during the Biden administration. And again, the proof that anti-Semitism is on the rise, well, they use the ADL research. This ADL research says that 83% of Jewish college students have experienced or witnessed anti-Semitism, but that is broadly defined to include anything from, quote, seeing vandalism to, quote, being the victim of an assault. And we don't have reports of violence. We do have plenty of reports of discomfort. Why was that okay for Black people to be like Republicans were fine with that, right? But no, Jewish people cannot be uncomfortable. Okay. They also define anti-Semitism as, quote, hearing problematic comments about Israel. And they say this is the most an incident of anti-Semitism. Well, that logic doesn't hold. We can say problematic things about Israel, has nothing to do with Jewish people, nor should it. And again, does this hold for every racial group? clearly it doesn't. If I want to say that the Turkish government may be corrupt for arresting political opponents, I can say that. It says nothing about a hate for Turkish people, clearly not. And many Jewish people don't accept Israel as a representative of themselves. And further, I want to ask Holocaust survivors if hearing something problematic about Israel is anti-Semitism, having escaped death. So again, just get out of here with that. Now, it's our collective right to say that, but look what else HHS wants. This is, again, a document from HHS that they want in this response to the perception of anti-Semitism. They want to look into the admissions procedures due to declining admissions for Jewish students. I myself, not that one. Can we go to the next one? This bullet point list. I think that the declining enrollment of Jewish students is probably because fewer and fewer students that are subsequent generations of immigrants identify as Jewish as a religion. But that's just my guess. But also, they want to review the portfolio of regional studies. They want to, what? They want to control the academic agenda of how we teach about Israel. That's not okay. That's 1984 level indoctrination. Should the government, any government, set the academic agenda of anything, really? I'm just not getting it. So what do you think that this academic censorship will include? A ban on maybe Edward Said's book, Orientalism, or a reframing of the Israel-Palestine conflict? This should scare us. So why? Why is RFK Jr. focusing on this when we had such high hopes for him as a real arbiter of real public health?
I mean, he was the one guy in this administration, maybe more than any other, that we were hoping would be confirmed. I mean, yes, Kash Patel, yes, Tulsi Gabbard, head of DNI, yes. And actually, we saw her yesterday stand up and say, Iran's not building nuclear weapons. So she said that publicly yesterday, so that's good. But we thought like RFK Jr. would be the guy.
Yeah.
The Democrat who's been pushing for getting fluoride out of our drinking water, talking about chemtrails, talking about making sure that our processed food, these dyes in our school lunches, all of this stuff. And this has been his main focus. I don't understand. I really don't.
I really don't either. And I'm upset about it.
Now, I do have some sourcing on this. I'm not going to say much more than that there are big things coming from HHS, so I know he's trying to, according to my sources, he's been really trying to wrap his hands around a big piece of this at HHS right now. So I'm hopeful that bigger things are coming. But why this? I just don't know. I can't wrap my head around it.
Well, not only is it not pertaining to something that directly affects the health of Americans and a focus on chronic disease, but also it is neo-racism. You can't reframe that there's racism only for one group, especially, again, as the Trump administration campaigned on the fact that, giving privilege to one group was racist towards others. And so they downplayed Black Lives Matter. They downplayed all of these, racial tropes that the Democrats love, but it pertains only to Jewish people. So I just don't understand it. And I really don't like the erosion of fundamental freedom, such as now the government sets the agenda, the academic agenda at universities. No to that. Absolutely no matter what party.
But then people jump right down the rabbit hole. Like I see someone in the chat, it's like, why do you all hate Jewish people? No one hates Jewish people.
Who said anything about that?
But that's the immediate thing. That's the immediate sort of response. And so then it tries to shut down all conversation about it. Let me ask you, do you think that the Health and Human Services should be focused on pushing some sort of academic agenda in our schools? Like, this is exactly what MAGA fought against.
Yeah.
Censorship, telling people how to, what to study in their schools. Like, this is exactly what they fought against.
So you think that the government should prevent students from hearing problematic things about Israel?
That's you're not
what
allowed.
The government should be doing?
Nope, you're not allowed to hear it.
RFK Jr., what is he actually up to? Why is he actually not making big moves against all the pro-something pharma companies and all of the deception regarding the poisons in our food and the poisons in the things that they give us as medicine? And yet this seems to be a big focus for him is anti-Semitism. It just doesn't line up. And so with that said, I wanted to add to this segment a clip. It's a 90-second clip of him talking about some of the very topics that he said he was going to influence in that position that he has yet to do. And the question is who is controlling RFK Jr.? Now, I'm going to have to censor this a little bit, so bear with me, but here we go.
Low on time, and I want to get if your kids were young now, would you give them the measles, the mumps?
I got measles, mumps when I was a kid. It was
lots of people die from them. Used to die from those diseases.
Well, you know what? They died in the 1900s or early 1900s. There were about 10,000 Americans a year who died. In 1964, there was about 300 or 400 who died, and they were almost all severely malnourished kids, mainly from the Mississippi Delta. This was before the poverty program, so there was a lot of starving children in our country. It's very, very hard to kill a healthy child with any infectious disease, but particularly with measles. And the World Health Organization now says vitamin A is an absolute cure for measles, which we didn't know about back then. Back then, you know, we were treated with chicken soup, and it was, you know, a week at home watching Leave It to Beaver, and every kid caught it. Every single kid got it. And I had 11 brothers and sisters, and we all got it, and we were all fine. And there are lots and lots of studies out there now that show that kids who get measles as a child are much healthier when they grow up, that they're much more resistant to cancers, to atopic diseases, to allergies, and to heart disease.
Okay, so all those bleeps you just heard, of course, were the big no-no word, which for some reason still gets us blasted off of YouTube. Like, what the heck? It just shows who's actually in charge. And I love to make the joke, who is in charge? The WHO. Who controls the narrative? Well, have you ever asked yourself why it is that doctors seem to be the one recurring profession that has a God complex? Well, it's because a lot of them think they are God, just like we covered with our genetic abomination creation of the direwolves earlier. But here's another older clip speaking up about the promises he was going to do once stepped into that position that Trump gave him, and yet we're not seeing the evidence. So we need to hold him accountable. Check this out.
CDC was also alarmed by the same thing that you described with the parents. They said, let's see if the are causing autism. So they looked at one, the hepatitis, which is loaded with mercury during the first 30 days of life. They looked at kids who got it during the first 30 days. They compared them to kids who did not get it during the first 30 days, who got it later or didn't get it at all. And here's what they found. The relative risk of smoking a pack of cigarettes a day for 20 years and lung cancer is 10. This was 11.35. They knew
is that because of thimerosal?
Was causing from thimerosal. This is what the story that got me involved, because they pushed the panic button and they had a secret meeting. They didn't want to do it on the CDC campus because they thought it would be susceptible to freedom of information requests. So they did it in a remote Methodist retreat center on the banks of the Chattahoochee River in Norcross, Georgia, and it was called Simpsonwood. They had a 2-day meeting with 52 individuals, including all the major companies, regulatory agencies that administer WHO, CDC, FDA, NIH, HHS, and the leaders, the leading academic, so the people who basically conduct clinical trials and make hundreds of millions of dollars for medical schools around this country. And the first day, and somebody, Megan, recorded that meeting. We don't know why. We don't know if they knew they were being recorded, but I got a hold of the transcripts in 2005, and it is horrific. It's a nightmare. Any of your listeners can go to our website, see Zero Children's Health Events, and read those transcripts and make up your own mind about what happened. And you see the pangerms of the American healthcare system, these regulators who are supposed to be protecting us. For the first day, they're looking at the science and they are saying it's bulletproof. we are causing autism.
Ooh, Nelly. So all of those bleeps, of course, our listeners and viewers, at a point, it's almost like, wow, what word are they even saying anymore? It's almost like you could put in any old cuss word and the whole conversation would still make sense. Did you know Bill Gates wants to hate you? And I'm going to beep that, of course, in post, but you get where I'm coming from. And I think it's hilarious to see, and that's why it's so concerning to me that now that RFK Jr. is in a position of power, he's not talking a lot about the things he's been talking about before, if you know what I mean. And that, to me, shows who really, truly is in control. I mean, if you can put a big iron clamp on the mouth of this guy who's been talking about it for decades, oh gosh, what are they holding over him? I mean, he's got to have some kind of big blackmail box right over his head that they're just warning him they're about to drop if he does anything he said he was going to do. And what do you think about this, Jeremiah? Man, it's just sad to see he's not done anything yet.
I think it's crazy that he's been MIA for so long. It's like we haven't heard anything about him once those Kennedy documents were dropped. That was the last time I've seen him on anything. So
he actually was on some news show or something where they asked him about the measles V, and said, "Would you recommend it for people?" And he said no, but he said, you know, it really should be up to each of the families as to whether they should or shouldn't.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. The pro-choice topic came up back in 2020, 2021, where you had previously pro-choice meaning go and kill infants in the womb, and then you had those same pro-choice people saying you should have no choice when it comes to this letter, you know, being stuck in your butt, you know, so... Oh man, it's so crazy, the world we live in. And we've talked about it in shows past about chemtrails and how we hope that if he truly wants to make America healthy again, he'll start to expose these geoengineering projects that have been going on for decades and decades, that have everybody has been called a conspiracy theorist for pointing out the fact that those aren't contrails, if you know what I mean. But some researchers in Florida found some pretty interesting things. There's been a correlation with parasites and long-standing diseases that have been passed off as being caused by other things. But the correlation between parasitic infection and its manifestation in the bad health of individuals is very interesting when you find that there could be parasites raining down from the skies. Bombshell, Dr. Jane Ruby sent me a sample of a plastic sheet that was collecting fallout from the skies of Florida. This also collected fallout from a recent fog event which sickened a lot of people. We were able to examine the samples both under the microscope and also via ICP-MS, mass spectral analysis, for heavy metals. The results are absolutely shocking, even horrifying. And I'm not one to easily be rattled by low levels of metals. What I'm seeing in these results is truly disturbing, finding both biological life forms of some kind and also then crazy high levels of toxic metals, including ridiculous levels of aluminum falling out of the sky. Beginning today and all this week, I will be sharing with you some of the microscopy photos, the lab tests, and the interview clips, and more. This is a high-level red alert issue, as we now have smoking gun laboratory evidence that insane things are falling out of the skies in Florida, sickening people, and we know that some of this stuff is incredibly toxic with heavy metals and toxic elements. Much more yet to come. For this photo, the magnification is approximately 2000x. Let me see if I can bring this down for you guys to look a little closer at this bug thing they found.
Delicious.
Some kind of delicious parasitic larva or something. But oh guys, I mean, very, very interesting, and especially with the attacks against ivermectin, which had to be attacked by Dr. Fauci, because if there was an alternative medical treatment of COVID, then they couldn't get the emergency use authorization for the mRNA experiment that happened. And guys, ivermectin is an anti-parasitic, which is very, very interesting. And here's another individual that posted in response to this dragon fog, or whatever they're calling it, that these little creatures are falling down from the heavens in. WR Shock QBD says Anons had dragon fog sweeping across the nation recently, lab analyzed and found trillions of tiny parasites used by military for bioweapon attacks, called Serratia maricenses. It isn't your imagination. Your government is literally poisoned you on purpose. And so, of course, it's a quote of this. Samples of testing from the fog taken in Naples, Florida. The test results indicate the fog contains Serratia maricenses, bacterial MDRO gram nijo, and from heavy fog in Naples, Florida. So, ooh, creepy, man, creepy.
Well, it reminds me, I did a history in August 1994 in Oakville, Washington. They had those gelatinous blobs that came down, and it got a lot of people sick, and people died, and it was really weird, and then nobody ever talked about it again. And it was like, it just, where'd it go? But it looks like they're doing the 2.0 of that.
Oh man, so it's a twofold thing. Not only is it the heavy metals that we have fully been aware of associated with chemtrails, and people are able to go up into the mountains and take soil samples and find high levels of aluminum and barium, but just the inclusion of the biological things raining down on us. Oh man, when I was growing up, I lived in the Philippines, and Filipinos have a strong superstition against going out to play in the rain. And of course it makes sense in the Philippines, because if you knew how smog ridden the cities were, with all the jeepneys going back and forth, diesel engines kicking up smoke and dust, no wonder they're like, hey, stay out of the acid rain, it's probably going to be bad for you. But I remember like, I don't care, rain's clean, rain's good, rain's fresh. And I had that perspective from growing up here in the States, where I thought the rain was, something natural, something untainted. Now that we see this, man, that is pretty alarming, especially when you find the association with parasites and health issues. But not only that, there's even some interesting biblical kind of spiritual connections with parasites. In recent articles and videos I've seen, have been associated with demonic possession and influence over people's bodies. And it's funny, we started off the episode joking around about toxoplasmosis coming from your cat's butt, but that's really what it comes down to, is these entities, these parasitic entities, can affect the human mind and the way that we act, the way that we think. And perhaps that's the whole goal, is that they're dropping these bugs on us because they want to control us. They want us sick. They want us gay. No, really. All right, let's move on. I wanted to read this short description of another medical experiment that I've talked about in previous shows. I actually learned about this from comedian Owen Benjamin. Shout out. Super interesting insights from Owen over the years, and one of them was about this experiment. It's the Mouse Utopia experiment, also called here the Universe 25 experiment. It is one of the most disturbing studies in the history of science, carried out by American scientist John Calhoun between 1958 and 1962. Calhoun designed an ideal environment for rats called the Mouse Paradise, with abundant food, water, and space, in order to study the social dynamics of a growing population. Initially, the colony prospered, but after 317 days, population growth began to stagnate. Upon reaching 600 mice, serious social problems arose. Hierarchies were established, the strongest individuals began to attack others, and aggressive and maladaptive behaviors emerged, such as violence between females and a lack of reproductive interest in males. All the mice turned gay. As passive, non-reproductive, beautiful mice, males dominated, the birth rate plummeted. Juvenile mortality reached 100%, abortion parallel there, right? And the colony collapsed into cannibalism and homosexuality. The experiment was repeated 25 times, each time with similar results, and had been used to model the study of social collapse and urban sociology. Oh man, so it's just fascinating to me, this story and what they learned from this experiment and how it plays out in the modern cityscape. Yo, get out of the city while you still can, because this is their plan. You know, they want to turn you into a mouse, man.
Mm-hmm.
All right, enough Dr. Seussing. I'm obviously excited about an announcement Jeremiah is going to make about another rhyming project that he's going to come out with. But I'll leave it to him to say. But anyways, on another note, whenever we had our guests on Zen Garcia and Witsit Gets It, I shared a clip of my unreleased documentary that was only on a subscription site, What If the Earth is Flat? And somebody picked up my clip from my documentary, and it's gone super viral. It looks like as of now it's got like 170,000 plays with thousands of shares on Facebook. So I was pretty stoked about this. I just wanted to share the video that they sent out. See here, it was shared out by who shared this? Erwin Muhammad. Shout out, bro. Thanks for sharing our content. And check out this clip that has just gone viral from my documentary, What If the Earth is Flat?
Earth. Check these out. This next point I found extremely interesting. Official documentation claiming the Earth is flat, and that mathematical equations used in aeronautics assume a flat, non-rotating Earth. Check these out. This is a CIA document sourced from the Russians, and it's titled Distance Defended in the Scientific Council of the Institute of Physics of the Earth. In the document, it mentions a near sun and a formula that is derived on the assumption of a flat Earth. This United States Army document from the Army Research Laboratory on the propagation of electromagnetic fields over flat Earth mentions transmitters placed on the surface of a flat, idealized Earth. In one of its figures, it also mentions flat Earth. In another Army Research Laboratory document, it depicts a diagram showing a flat Earth, crepuscular rays that we mentioned earlier, and a near and localized sun. Here's another document on projectile flight dynamics, and the equations in the document assume a flat Earth. Here's a NASA document on the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. Introduction. This report details the development of the linear model of rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA document on the SR-71 Blackbird and its top speed of 2,193 miles per hour. Maneuvers depending on a non-turbulent atmosphere and a non-rotating Earth. Federal Aviation Administration document. Equations of motion assuming a flat, non-rotating Earth. Another NASA document. A rigid aircraft flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. An aircraft model for the AIAA Controlled Design Challenge. Flight dynamics of a rigid aircraft flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA Technical Paper 1285, Flat, Non-Rotating Earth. A NASA Georgia Tech project in conjunction with the U.S. Air Force. A model frequently used is that of a flat, non-rotating Earth. You have to admit that a lot of these flight calculations are based on a flat, non-rotating Earth because they come right out and say it.
Hey, kind of cool for that video to go viral. but he must have picked it up from our interview a couple weeks back, Jeremiah. So that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's cool. You getting any royalties from it?
No royalties. Just getting the word out there that the documents say it, right?
Right on.
All right, here's another very cool clip. Well, maybe not so cool. It's actually a giant stadium of people worshiping Satan. Check this out. Wow, that was an elaborate worshiping of Satan in the soccer stadium.
Yeah, it seemed very unnecessary. Very, very unnecessary. I mean, what is the point of that in a soccer game? It's just kind of weird. I mean, I don't know. I'm a baseball fan.
Way over the top. Now, just so you guys know what the language was reading underneath the picture of the devil that came up, the two banners read, "Hearken, O night, Lucifer, and rise from the abyss. Take our souls, draw us to the light. The world..." It cuts off the rest of the text there, but...
What does that have to do with soccer?
Man,
I don't get it.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Could be the name of the team.
Because, yeah, likely. Maybe they're the Devils or something, or maybe it's because they don't call it soccer down in South America. It's football. It's football. Yeah. Anyways, sorry. It's you know, not even as I mean, it's kind of comparable to your modern Super Bowl party. You get the halftime show and Madonna out there in a devil costume. They're just trying to show us up, man.
Yeah, they're trying to out-Satan us.
Out-Satan the Sataners. Man. Well, here's another clip that I think is super telling. This is the Argentinian president has declassified documents which confirm that Hitler had fled to Argentina after World War II, was aided by America, and where he lived another 20 years and had 2 children. Oh, man. So, check this out. Hitler was alive all this time.
Hopefully there's no relation to Elon. That would be horrible.
All right, here we go.
people know this story and who have studied the subject know that Adolf Hitler didn't kill himself in a bunker in Berlin as the Red Army closed in. I think that's, we all know that was a fabricated story, or if you watch the show, you probably understand that. Hitler actually fled Germany weeks before that using a group of underground tunnels that led to an airstrip, and that airstrip was flown. He was flown from. It took submarines, or multiple submarines that were used, U-boats that were then sent to Argentina. In other words, Hitler lived for nearly 2 decades more in Argentina, along with vast numbers of the Third Reich. Well, now Argentinian President Javier Milei has just ordered the release of all remaining documents on all of those Nazis who fled Germany and moved to Argentina after World War II. Basically, it was almost like a second base of operations in Argentina. If you're not familiar with that, like basically the Third Reich operated out of Argentina and Germany. And many of them, including Adolf Hitler, lived in Argentina well after 1945. Most people know that Hitler lived out his days in Bariloche, Argentina, until he died there in the mid-1960s. Yes, you can read the CIA documents about this. The FBI documents also about sightings of Hitler in this area. They knew about it. Of course they knew about it. It was largely facilitated, I think it's safe to say, by the United States and its allies. Operation Paperclip, anybody? Quid pro quo?
Also, if you look into this, the skull that is held in Russia that was supposedly the remains of Adolf Hitler with a bullet wound in it is female.
Yeah.
So when you look for proof that Hitler did in fact kill himself in the bunker, you are going to find a lot of dead ends.
Yeah, and all you need to read, you can read a great book on this called The Gray Wolf. It's a great book. There's many books written about this now. But yeah, the skull, the fragments, they ran the DNA tests on it, and the Soviets allowed them to do this testing. And even Stalin openly talked about that Hitler lived, that he was not there. So Stalin even knew about it. It's widely known in Argentina, by the way, well known, that Hitler sired 2 children while he lived in Argentina.
Yeah, there's a good show called Hunting Hitler, and it was on History Channel. I don't know what part of History Channel, or it might have been Discovery. It was one of the two, but it was so good. It was like a docu-series where they actually went to Argentina, and there was a whole village that were all Germans. All of their ancestors were Nazis. It's crazy.
Man, it is so not surprising. Nazi-prizing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They were good at building tunnels.
Oh man, yeah, and it's so interesting because you see that America really became the manifestation of the intellectual Third Reich, because you had the transference of all these scientists and guys from Nazi Germany to the United States, inserted into our space programs, to NASA, into the CIA, Project Paperclip, and all of these big brains that were occultists and worked for Nazi Germany were just plugged right in here.
Oh, they were the good Nazis, though.
Yeah, that's what they say, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. But anyways, I had one last interesting video that I wanted to watch with you guys, and then that'll be all for our news segment this week. And it's this video that posits that English is a phonetically reversed Hebrew. It's very fascinating to think about. And some say that English and Hebrew, they're calculated mathematically, and that the reversed language, that is the reason why every major popular song, when it's reversed, there's actually a hidden meaning behind it symbolically. And it's very interesting. Let's check out this little clip on this theory.
The ancient Jews used Hebrew as their numerical system, man. Each letter's a number. Like the Hebrew A, Aleph, it's 1. B, Bet, it's 2. You understand? But look at this. The numbers are interrelated. Like take the Hebrew word for father. Av, Aleph, Bet. 1, 2 equals 3. All right? Hebrew word for mother, Aim, Aleph, Mem. 1, 40 equals 41. Sum of 3 and 41, 44. All right? Now, Hebrew word for child. All right? Mother, father, child. Yelad. That's 10, 30, and 4. 44. Torah is just a long string of numbers. Some say that it's a code sent to us from God.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's just kid stuff. Check this out, okay? The word for the Garden of Eden, Kedem. Numerical translation, 144. And the value of tree of knowledge, all right, in the garden, right? Eitz HaChaim, 233. 144, 233. And you can
Those
take
are
those
Fibonacci
numbers. So the
You know, like the Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci, an Italian mathematician in the 13th century. If you divide 144 into 233, the result approaches theta.
Theta?
Theta. Greek symbol for golden ratio, golden spiral.
Wow. I never saw that before. That's like that series you find in nature? Like the face of a sunflower?
Wherever the spirals.
You see this math everywhere.
In ancient mystery school Pythagorean mathematics, there's only 9 numbers in the universe. 9 numbers. 10 is actually 1 plus 0, that's 1. Zeros are placeholders. It's a man-made. Creator's language is math. There's only 9 numbers in the universe, 1 through 9. The numbers have a resonance, a frequency, a deep sacred geometry. And that this 3, 6s, and 9s is special, or very special. Who said that? How about last century's greatest genius? Not Einstein, Nikola Tesla. Tesla taught his students John Keeley and Royal Raymond Rife and others. If humanity only knew the powers of the 3, 6s, and 9s, it would be a completely different universe. Not just world, universe, said Tesla. The alphanumerics, alphabet numbers, and alphanumerics of the English language, 1 through 26. But we talked about earlier, there's only 9 numbers, so you've got to use the Pythagorean mystery school math method of reducing the double digits into the single digit into.
Ooh, fascinating linguistic math and the connection with numbers and Hebrew. And I always found one of the most interesting kind of divine signatures to the ancient scriptures, specifically the Torah, are the Torah codes that they're able to identify cylindrical like patterns in the way that the language, the equidistant spacing of the letters signifies a grander intellect behind the scriptures that we have. And while there's all types of issues with translations and the errors of the scribes and Pharisees, you know, adding to, taking away, there is discernible patterns in the language of the ancient scriptures, like the Bible codes, that reveal something much deeper than just the surface level. And to me, it's always been super fascinating, and I find it interesting. I don't know if Hebrew is phonetically reversed English or English is phonetically reversed Hebrew, but I do think the topic of language is so interesting. And when you really do a semantic study of the English language, English truly is the language of double speak, self-cursing, and witchery. And it's really, really profound when you compare the intellectual value of the Semitic language of Hebrew and how it's a much more verbal verbiage. The language of Hebrew is an action-based practical language that gives further information, while Greek kind of mindset, Western languages and English, is a much more philosophy-based mindset that gives kind of vague answers that never allow you to get to the nitty-gritty of a topic. And so I find that dichotomy extremely interesting. My daughters just recently learned their alphabet as we're trying to return to a pure tongue ourselves, and just learning myself through trying to teach them and the depth behind each and every letter, and how when you combine the letters it has a pictographic meaning, not as well as the numeric meaning, and there's even something I've not tapped into, which is the frequency associated with each Hebrew letter, and it's just super fascinating to me. But in the midst of all of the anti-Semitic rhetoric and pro-Palestinian theories and all of this interesting conspiracy that's going on in the world, that is, it's like solidifying that Jews can't be spoken out against or spoken about in any way, and then it obscurates the fact that there is a difference between the people of the book and the people who claim the identity and the people who are literally just living in the land. And this is something that Rob talked about so much, that there's a grand conspiracy, and this double dupe that we're seeing play out in front of us is very important for us to unpack. And my personal interpretation, just to jump to the case to, in this segment, is, it seems to me that the people that obey the Torah, the law of the scriptures, and are grafted in through the Messiah, they are true Israel. And there is an identity crisis happening in the world where modern Christianity has so isolated themselves and separated themselves from the laws of the book and only found their identity in the Messiah. And then the Jews themselves have separated their identity from the Messiah, Yeshua, and they believe in only, the Talmudic interpretations and Midrashic regarding the Torah and all the additional things that adds to their halakha. That the world is so confused as to what it would mean for people to start to walk out a actual scriptural faith, because there's so many man-made traditions and things that have been built on to take away or to add to. And so how do we find the narrow path? And I think that's what really gets me excited about things like tapping into the depth behind the Hebrew language and the letters and finding that pure tongue, because we've inherited the system of Babylon through the things that we speak. Because in the very beginning, the curse of Babylon was the nations were spread across the earth in all the different languages. But how is that used to control and manipulate it? It's because our language is how we think. And if we can unlock the chains that bind our mind the way we think, then perhaps we can learn that words like the big no-no word that we can't say on this program or we get kicked off YouTube, or other phrases or slang words that have been used to control and manipulate, racial slurs, curse words. These are all systems of control that are placed on our mind. So let's break out of it. Let's see the brighter picture and figure out what the truth is. All right, so that's enough pontificating there, Jeremiah. Back to you, buddy.
All right, thanks, Jake, for another great current news as always. And now a quick look at the Babylon Rising bookstore.
Check out our new and improved BabylonRisingBooks.com, where you can get Rob Skiba's books, bundles, DVDs, DVD-ROMs, videos, and so much more. You can even get Sheila and Jeremiah's books, so check it out now.
And since we're talking about books, Jake mentioned it, I'm almost finished with my children's book, Charlie's Big Adventures Around the World or Not. So get ready for that, and it'll be in the Babylon Rising bookstore. And it's about that time for an all-new Opus Corner. Take it away, Opa.
Mein Hut, der hat 3 Ecken. 3 Ecken hat mein Hut. Und hat nicht 3 Ecken, dann ist es nicht mein Hut.
The strange, the bizarre, the unexpected. These are the kinds of subjects a man named Robert L. Ripley challenged us to believe it or not.
Believe it or not, you.
Wally, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
Believe it!
You're a loony.
Sir Robert Watson Watt, the inventor of radar, was caught speeding by a radar gun. Gotcha. Believe it or not. A traffic law was passed in Rhode Island in 1678, banning galloping horses on the streets in Newport. Hi-oh, silver! Believe it or not. Convicted criminal Joe Exotic served as the chief of police in Eastvale, Texas at the age of 19. Believe it or not. In basketball, the backboard was added to keep fans from interfering with the game. Believe it or not. In Finland, new PhD holders are given a traditional PhD sword and PhD hat during a conferment ceremony. On guard! Believe it or not. A group of caterpillars is called an army. I don't know, but I've been told. Believe it or not. Historians say St. Patrick's color was blue, not green. In the 1600s, green was popular as a symbol of the Irish Rebellion. Believe it or not. Chilean artist Boris Toledo makes portraits of iconic characters out of mashed avocado. Maybe he had a close encounter. Da 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 da. Believe it or not. Instead of once upon a time, Korean folk tales start with when the tiger used to smoke. I wonder what they used for and they lived happily ever after. Believe it or not. In the movie Edward Scissorhands, Edward speaks fewer than 200 words throughout the entire film. Now that's a script I think I can handle. Believe it or not. McDonald's created a tiny restaurant for bees that's a working hive with a drive-through. Big Mac, please. Believe it or not. Much like birds, fish will sing. Tiptoe through the plankton. Believe it or not. The Lion King was originally titled King of the Jungle before they realized that lions don't actually live in jungles. Believe it or not. Excluding the base, the Great Pyramid of Giza has 8 sides. Believe it or not. The first movie to ever have a commercial soundtrack album was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Now, if they could just make movies like that again. Believe it or not. A flashlight is a container for holding dead batteries. Bills travel through the mail at twice the speed of checks. Evolution. True science fiction. I didn't used to finish sentences, but now I used to have an open mind, but my brains kept falling out. I intend to live forever. So far, so good. Stop repeat offenders. Don't re-elect them. Diplomacy is the art of letting someone else get your way. Nobody's perfect. I'm a nobody. Gravity. It's not just a good idea, it's the law. Ask me about my vow of silence. I wonder how much deeper the ocean would be without sponges. You can't have everything. Where would you put it? Who is this general failure? And why is he reading my hard disk? A day without sunshine is like, well, night. Excuse me a sec. I want to check how many hits I got on my website. Barb, have them take your mom too, so you won't be so lonely. Yoo-hoo! Green Man! Here's a great specimen! The problem with hiring a math major. That's the wrong shelf. No, it's not. Half and half. Whole. Hi, Eric. You look surprised. Almost as if you didn't really expect to see me later. He just stands there staring. I took his phone and told him to go outside and play. That's why I don't use those dog carriers. Hello, America. And so, after being frozen in ice for almost 50,000 years, we'll ask our friend here what dramatic changes he's noticed. And while you're out there, bring in a couple of them frozen dinners. Hear that? Darn. He called it a darn. All this political correctness has gone too far. Non-union wagon masters. Wagons, start! The townsfolk all stopped and stared. They didn't know the tall stranger who rode calmly through their midst, but they did know their reign of terror had ended. Wanted, dead or alive, $5,000. She's all over YouTube. A political party motivated by stupidity. What's next? You can't keep letting her veto trips to the vet. How come God put all the vitamins in cabbage and nothing in candy? If you want a concise professional opinion, you're nutty as a Seafood Wizard Groceries, Zat's Armored Security, eggs, 12 dozen eggs. Well, I guess that does it, folks. Number 26 is taking his ball and going home. Sleeping to white noise. Waking to orange noise. So, you want to sell our pencils, do you? Unfortunately, Mr. Bekos, your son Dean is very allergic to grass. He'll need to avoid any activity that could stir it up at all. Skippy, twice the jar, half the peanut butter. It's not about catching the laser dot. It's about the journey.
Amen.
Okay, settle down. Now, who wants the dark meat and who wants the white? The boys down at Wilt Construction were having hours of fun with their new Nerf wrecking ball. Winner! Out of focus group. Now, what feature would you find most desirable in a smartphone camera? Blurred resolution. Here we are, imprisoned in a lab, far from folks everywhere, unable to reach and infect the outside world. What we have here is a failure to be communicable. Young people these days, they have absolutely no respect for tradition. Do not pet the striped kitties.
Oh.
Just trying to get some reading in. Training stubborn dachshunds. And that concludes another Opa's Corner. Opa's Corner is now available on my own YouTube channel. Like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you, Opa, for another great Opa's Corner. This week's History's Mysteries is brought to you by Corporate Bloom, so check this out. Hey, Skiba News Nation family. We're excited to announce something cool with you guys. We are now teaming up with Corporate Bloom. They have a new system that puts over 30 AI tools all in one place. Normally priced at $29.99, you can try it out now and get 25% off with your first month using code Skiba at checkout. This helps with beta testing, and you get to use some amazing tools. Remember, use code Skiba at checkout. We can't wait to see what you guys come up with and what you create with it. So check out corporatebloom.com. So definitely check that out, and it's about that time for all new History's Mysteries. So today's History's Mysteries is about Phil Spector, from genius to killer is what I call it. So today we're going to be talking into one of the wildest musical and true crime topics of all time, in my opinion. We're going to be talking about the legendary and now infamous Phil Spector. I hope if you could pull up those photos. So Phil Spector is pictured in each of these images with all these different people. He did some of the biggest albums. He did, let me just list some of them off. He did the Ronettes' Be My Baby. He did Let It Be by the Beatles. He did John Lennon's Imagine, George Harrison's All Things Must Pass, and My Sweet Lord. He also was the inspiration for Pet Sounds. Brian Wilson loved him. He's a rock and roll Hall of Famer. And he had all this amazing stuff going for him. And his life took a pretty crazy turn. So for this first clip, we're going to be talking about the case and the history of Phil Spector. So check this out.
We intend vigorously to pursue an appeal, and any other legal remedy that we're able to and are entitled to, we will pursue, because we do believe that this was not the right result. We do tell you that Mr. Spector did not kill Lana Clarkson, and we hope that somehow, by the time we are done, we will have been able to prove that.
With this verdict and this sentence, a message has been sent. I think a very clear message has been sent. If you commit crimes in our communities, if you commit violence against our citizens, we, under the watchful eye of the District Attorney's Office, we will find you. We will prosecute you. And no matter your fame or your wealth or your supposed celebrity, you will stand trial, and you will be accountable for your action.
On February 3rd, 2003, a hysterical 911 call was made from the mansion of famous record producer Phil Spector. Spector's personal chauffeur made that very call, and he would become a star witness in a case and trial that captivated people all over the world. Born in 1939 in New York, Harvey Philip Spector showed creative talent and a passion for music from a very young age. He quickly began forming bands and learning instruments. While he achieved success with his band the Teddy Bears, his look drastically changed when he decided to move into producing records. He became a millionaire before the age of 21, and by the 1960s, he had 23 records in the top 50. It was also in the 1960s that he signed the band The Ronettes to his record label. One third of the talented trio Ronnie fell in love with Spector, and they later married. However, the honeymoon phase soon faded. Spector quickly became controlling and abusive towards her. Metal bars were placed over the windows, barbed wire put around the mansion, and he would take her shoes in a bid to prevent her from running away. Ronnie claimed he frequently threatened her life and often pulled guns on her. In her 1990 memoir, she spoke about the years of torment which culminated in her escaping from the house, barefoot, with the help of her mother. She said, "I knew that if I didn't leave, I was going to die." Multiple witnesses would say, although he was a musical genius, he could also become erratic and volatile and frequently drank heavily during recording sessions. The more he drank, the darker things became, and he would often pull guns out and fire them at walls and ceilings. Despite the personal turmoil, professionally, Spector's career was still on the up. He was collaborating and working with the likes of the Beatles, the Ramones, the Supremes, and the Rolling Stones. He contributed to and produced a vast amount of hit songs, including Rock and Roll High School, Imagine, and You've Lost That Loving Feeling. He also created and coined a new music production technique that people would use for years to come, known as the Wall of Sound. He had well and truly reached the top of his profession, and was highly sought after by various A-list artists. However, during the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, Spector took more of a backseat, remaining virtually inactive. Rumours about his wild, bizarre, and troubling personal life began hitting the headlines once more. He was, however, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame during these decades. 3rd of February 2003. Phil Spector had been driving around LA, going on several dates with different women, visiting his favourite spots. Over several hours, he spent time at The Grill, Trader Vic's, and Dan Tana's. He had already taken a concoction of pills with a mixture of alcohol, including liquor that was 75% proof. But Spector's night wasn't over, and sometime after midnight, he and one of his dates entered the VIP area of the famous House of Blues on Sunset Boulevard, Los Angeles. Lana Clarkson was an American actress and model. Born in California California in 1962, she quickly showed a spark for the entertainment industry. She was talented, beautiful, and had a lot of passion for performing. People that knew her said she also had great comedic timing, regularly working on her own sketches and stand-up ideas. Lana hoped to be cast in different roles that showed her many talents and versatilities as an actress. By the 80s, she was achieving success within the industry. Although playing bit parts, these parts were in big movies and TV shows: Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Scarface, Three's Company, and The Jeffersons, to name a few. She was also passionate when it came to helping others. She did a lot of charity work and volunteered weekly for Project Angel Food, which delivered food for those in Los Angeles affected by HIV or AIDS. As she approached her 30s, however, her career started to slow down, and she wasn't acting as frequently. She decided to start a website as a way of interacting with her fans. On this site, she sold signed copies of her films as a way of making some extra money and giving her fans something more personal. In 2001, she had a serious accident, breaking both her wrists in 26 places, requiring multiple surgeries. This left her physically unable to carry on any film or commercial work for a long time. After this long break, she struggled even more to get the roles she used to, and she began taking part-time jobs to support herself. In early 2003, she took on a new job as a hostess at the House of Blues in West Hollywood, Los Angeles. Many that knew her said this was a clever and strategic decision, as the House of Blues was a popular celebrity hangout. Anybody who was anybody would spend time there, and being a hostess, Lana would regularly be making connections with all manner of powerful people within the industry. On February 3rd, while working in the VIP area, she walked right into one of those powerful people, Phil Spector. Witnesses said that Spector was wearing one of his notorious wigs, and Lana momentarily thought that he was an unknown female trying to get into the exclusive area. At first, she refused him entry, but upon being told he was a famous record producer, she immediately apologised and began showering him with attention and drinks. When Spector's date no longer wanted to participate in the drinking, Spector sent her home. His attention was now firmly on Lana Clarkson. It was very clear to onlookers that Spector was heavily intoxicated by this point, and was continuing to drink heavily and spiral further out of control. A few hours later, at around 2:30 a.m, Lana finished her shift and went to go and find her car. She clearly made a good impression on Spector, as after he spotted her in the street, he begged her to come back to his mansion for a drink. The CCTV footage from outside the venue shows Lana getting into Spector's car.
So, in my opinion, there's a very, very fine line between genius and psychopath. Like, there are so many parallels, but it's like you could either be the good one or the bad one. It's just fascinating to see the different types, and it's crazy. So next we're going to be taking a look at what happened the night of the murder between Phil Spector and Lana Clarkson. So check this out.
Sometime after 3 a.m, Spector's personal driver dropped both Phil and Lana at the back door of the producer's mansion in Alhambra. It was about 40 miles away from the House of Blues. Known as The Castle, this secluded 3-acre house boasted 33 rooms and was Spector's pride and joy. The details surrounding how the next series of events came to be will never be fully known. Just before 5 a.m, Spector's driver, Adriano de Souza, heard a loud popping sound. He got out of the car to check it was nothing to do with the vehicle, and was getting back into it when he saw the back door slowly open. Phil Spector emerged holding a gun and said, "I think I've killed someone." Upon looking past Spector into the foyer, Adriano saw the legs of Lana Clarkson, and she was slumped in a chair with blood coming from her mouth. Adriano ran down the driveway. He was fearing for his life and knew he needed to call the police. Before he made the call to 911, he left a voicemail on Michelle Blaine's answer phone. Michelle was Spector's longtime personal assistant. Adriano briefly told her what had happened, and he would later say that he didn't know the exact address, and he initially phoned her to ask for it. After backing out onto the street and confirming the road name, he phoned 911.
911, what are you reporting?
Hi, my name is Adriano. I think my boss killed somebody. Please, can you send me
You think your boss killed somebody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and your boss's name?
It's Phil Spector.
I'm sorry?
Phil Spector.
At around 5:10, police descended on Spector's sprawling property. When the police spotted him, Spector began to retreat and seemingly started to reach for something in his shirt. Worried he might be attempting to arm himself, they tried to use a taser on Spector, but it got tangled in his clothing and didn't work. They then rushed him with a ballistic shield and knocked him to the floor. Other officers ran past to find Lana. It was evident that nothing could be done to save her, and she was already deceased. Near Lana's body was an open drawer containing an empty gun holster. The holster seemed to match the gun lying next to Lana's legs. Although no fingerprints were found on the gun when it was examined, Lana's blood was discovered around various parts of the mansion. In one of the bathrooms, police found a cloth covered in blood, as well as blood on one of Spector's jackets hanging in a closet, and more blood was on the stairs. In the main living room, police found an empty bottle of tequila and a cocktail glass with some lit candles. Just after 6 a.m, Spector was brought in for questioning on suspicion of murder, and the arresting officers noted that he reeked of alcohol and was clearly inebriated. Shouting and slurring at the officers, he denied any wrongdoing and claimed that Lana had taken her own life. He said she even kissed the gun before she pulled the trigger. While in jail, he made a phone call to Robert Shapiro, a defense attorney to the stars. Most notably, Robert Shapiro had been part of O.J. Simpson's defense team in the high-profile 1995 trial. Thanks to Shapiro, Spector's bail was set at $1 million, which he quickly made and swiftly headed back to his multi-million-dollar mansion. Following a similar approach he had taken in the Simpson trial, Shapiro began regularly conversing with the media in a bid to control the situation and present Spector's narrative. In the following months, Spector's PR team also appeared to go into overdrive, and multiple unfavourable stories were coming out about Lana Clarkson. It was alleged that she was depressed at her fledgling career and had just wanted to end it all. A portrait was painted of her as a washed-up B-list movie actress who was struggling to make ends meet. And shockingly, despite no confirmation of this, it was reported by the Los Angeles radio station that Lana had accidentally shot herself. During these months, Spector also made many various bizarre televised interviews, telling anyone that would listen that Lana had taken her own life on that fateful night. The autopsy results finally came back. They determined that Lana had died when a single bullet severed her spine. On the 22nd of September 2003, despite Spector's claims of suicide, Lana's death was officially ruled as a homicide, and just a few months later, Phil Spector was formally charged with the death of Lana Clarkson. He pled not guilty and maintained that she had taken her own life. It would be 5 years before the case would enter a courtroom.
So 2 hours later, after 5 a.m., Adriana D'Souza, I hope I'm saying that right, the driver, heard 2 or more gunshots, and Spector came out and he looked at him and he said, "I think I killed somebody." So that's when the driver decided to call 911, and in my opinion, Phil Spector might have gotten away with it if that hadn't happened. And because of that, a warrant was issued right here, and the police were able to preserve and protect the crime scene and were able to arrest Phil Spector. Now in this next clip, we're going to be entering the courtroom to listen to what Phil Spector and his defense team had to say. So check this out.
In March 2007, Spector went on trial for the murder of Lana Clarkson. He was charged with second-degree murder, and it was a media frenzy. Judge Larry Paul Fidler was presiding and allowed the proceedings to be televised. Robert Shapiro was no longer working with Spector, and Leslie Abramson was now in charge. At this point, she was most famous for representing Eric Menendez in the infamous Menendez brothers trial. Leslie and Phil clashed, and they parted ways. While looking for another lawyer, Spector decided to take matters into his own hands and created a website with the intent of putting his version of events to the public. His personal assistant Michelle helped him film these strange and erratic videos. She recalled feeling at the time that something was deeply disturbed about the way he was approaching the situation.
There was a dying woman there which we needed medical attention, and there was still no paramedic there, yet we called for the paramedic. Did you take Mr. Spector? No. Why? You know, I mean, those are the answers you get. It was capped off because she pulled the trigger with it, and it was a false fingernail, and it came off. So half of it fell off on the floor, and the other, both halves split and fell on the floor. Apparently, Robert Shapiro said that he had half, and the police said they had the other half. Now, Robert Shapiro now says, I don't have the other half because that's obstruction of justice, and he can go to jail for that. So he's denied, and then I fired him. I had been out to dinner and a grill. I had been to another restaurant downtown, and then I stopped by the house. It was closing time, and all of a sudden, Phil Spector could never have done this. He could never stand up and shoot a girl in the mouth with a gun. Where's my history of this?
After a while of searching for a new attorney, Bruce Cutler took over. However, he too withdrew due to differences of opinions with Spector. This was just days before the closing arguments. Linda Kenny Baden then stepped in and took over for the final part of the trial. This constant hiring and firing of his legal teams also kept setting the trial back a huge amount. During the trial, Spector's love of guns and his history of abusive and manipulative relationships with people fueled the prosecution's case significantly.
There's a pattern that emerges in Philip Spector's history, and it's a pattern that's indelibly etched into his history. When there's a woman, alcohol, a loss of control, Philip Spector pulls a gun.
By this time, multiple women had spoken out against Spector, and many artists and assistants could attest to his erratic and volatile behaviour. One of Spector's sons, Gary, said that at no point did he disbelieve anyone's account of how Spector had behaved in the past. He said it even gave him flashbacks as to what it was like to live with him. The star witness in the trial, Adriana D'Souza, testified on the stand and had a lot more to say about the limo ride over to the castle. He claimed that Lana was less keen on going back to Spector's mansion, and that Spector kept kept putting pressure on her to get into the limo. She eventually said she would go back for one drink and then she wanted to leave. This reluctance to go with him in the first place did little to help the defense's case. Spector's defense team painted Lana in a very unflattering light. She was spoken of as someone who seemed desperate to revive an already unsuccessful career, and in failing to do so had slumped into depression, culminating in her taking her own life in Spector's home. On September 10th, 2007, the jury began their deliberations. After a week, they came back in a deadlock, 7-5. They deliberated further, trying to come to a unanimous decision, but on the 26th of September, the judge declared a mistrial as the jurors were still in a deadlock, this time of 10-2. This was, however, in favour of the prosecution. This ultimately meant that as they hadn't reached a majority, the whole process would have to start all over again with a new trial. It was a devastating blow for Lana's loved ones and the prosecution. Prosecutor Alan Jackson said he wanted a retrial as quickly as possible. He said he owed it to Lana and her family to see that justice was done. After the trial was over, in a shocking twist, Spector asked his assistant Michelle if she would marry him. He worried that she knew too much and said he would feel safer if they were married, as spouses don't have to testify against each other in court. Michelle refused.
So he was convicted of second-degree murder, and for those of y'all who don't know the difference between first-degree and second-degree murder, first-degree murder is when someone has intent and it's premeditation, when they decide, they plan it all out and then they do it. He was convicted of second-degree murder, and it's when you intentionally kill, but there's no premeditation involved, and so that's what he was being convicted of. And Spector was having a very hard time keeping his very high-profile lawyers. In the meantime, he decided to record himself, which he looked crazy. Like, to me, he looked crazy. Couldn't have helped his image at all. So before I get Jake and Opa's opinion, I want to play this last clip of the Phil Spector story. So check this out.
13 months later, on October 29, 2008, the retrial began. Judge Larry Fidler was presiding again, however this time the trial was not televised. Doran Weinberg was now Spector's attorney, and going up against Weinberg for the prosecution was still Alan Jackson. Weinberg argued that the only witness who had been in the vicinity at the time, Adriano de Souza, was continuously giving slightly different versions of the event and how it had played out. Weinberg said that this alone should be enough to acquit Spector. Prosecutor Alan Jackson fired back, arguing that Lana had shown absolutely no signs of suicidal behaviour, and it just didn't add up, no matter which way one looked at it. The judge, again, allowed Spector's past history of guns and relationships to be used as evidence during the trial, and witness after witness came forward to attest to these harrowing accounts. The prosecution focused and honed in more on the analysis of the blood, and it was clear that the forensic evidence was overwhelming. The blood splatter analysis shows that there was blood on the back of Lana's hands and wrists. An expert testified that if she was holding the gun herself, this particular position of the blood didn't add up. They said that this indicated that her hands would have been up and near her mouth, with her palms facing outwards, not inwards, as if she was holding a gun. They argued that the placement of her hands appeared to be in a more defensive position. Put simply, the blood was on the wrong side of her hands and wrists. The prosecution also said that the blood on Spector's jacket definitively put him within arm's reach of Lana, with his arms pointed at her face. Alan Jackson reminded the courtroom of Lana's terrible accident in which she broke both her wrists. Following the path that the bullet entered her mouth, they knew that the gun would have to have been held in a very specific way. Because of the spiral fracture she had from her accident, she couldn't have physically held the gun in the position it would have had to have been in. They also said that in a 10,000 square foot house, the chances of Lana, who had never been there before, finding a gun from within a drawer seemed totally far-fetched and ridiculous. This same gun, allegedly used to shoot herself, had no fingerprints on it at all. If Lana had been holding it, hers should have been there. The prosecution speculated that the way in which Lana's body was found indicated something very significant. Her jacket and shoes were on and her handbag was across her shoulder. It appeared that she was attempting to leave the property. It was in that moment that Spector felt like he was losing control, and just the same as the other ex-partners described, he reached for the gun in a bid to control the situation. This, along with all of the witness testimonies and the other evidence collected from the scene, showed that the prosecution appeared to have a firmly watertight case.
Title of court and cause. We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Philip Spector, guilty of the crime of second-degree murder of Lana Clarkson in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony, as charged in count 1 of the indictment. We further find the allegation that in the commission of the above offense, said defendant Philip Spector personally used a firearm, to-wit handgun, within the meaning of Penal Code Section 12022.5A1 to be true.
On April 13, 2009, the jury found Phil Spector guilty of second-degree murder, and on May 29, 2009, he was sentenced to 19 years to life in prison. In January 2021, Phil Spector died in a prison hospital from complications relating to COVID-19. He was 81 years old and would have been eligible for parole in 2024. Lana Clarkson's passionate, warm, and loving personality lives on through her friends and family. She was a funny and talented woman who had so much more to give and achieve. Her life was cut tragically short, but the memories people have of her continue to keep her vibrant spirit alive.
So rest in peace, Lana Clarkson. I mean, nobody deserves to die like that, and I think it's all tragic, and it shouldn't have happened. But what are your thoughts about it, Jake?
If I'm not mistaken, right, his daughter, Phil Spector's daughter, is still pushing to exonerate him with the Innocence Project, right?
Well, he's dead, so
yeah. Posthumously, I thought that was really interesting when I looked up the case, and apparently, you know, she's still trying to prove his innocence because of, like, you know, little inconsistencies in the forensic evidence, and whether or not he's guilty, I think it tells a lot about how people want their family viewed after they pass away, because she wants to preserve a legacy, right? And Phil Spector is pushing to get his name cleared with her whole Innocence Project regarding this case, and it goes to people oftentimes can turn a blind eye, especially if it means passing down a legacy to her children of, hey, your father didn't actually, you know, your forefather didn't actually murder a woman in the face. But what a terrible story, and definitely very sad for Lana, and it's just really interesting to me that his daughter is still trying to push to get his name cleared after he died in 2021.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, I could do another history based on just of what she's saying. I mean, I think that would be very interesting, because most people, this is one of the craziest, coolest things I own. This is a personal check from 1972 of October, signed by Phil Spector, and at that time he was actually doing George Harrison's album, which is just very interesting, kind of my true crime and music love all in one thing. And I'm a weird person, I know, but what are your thoughts about it, Opa?
I think he did it just like O.J. Simpson. I think, you know, he was drunk. She was trying to leave. He didn't want her to leave. He got the gun out and was threatening her and shot her.
Well, if you noticed, she misgendered him at the bar, and then I think that's what set him off, and he took her back, and then I mean, it's an ego thing. I think it's really just based around his ego, and then he thinks I'm more powerful than the law.
The guy literally waved guns around in famous people's faces, so I mean, I think he's guilty, man.
Yeah, so let me know what you think down in the comment section below, but I do want to give a big shout out to Truly Criminal on YouTube. They have a phenomenal YouTube channel. Now, after all that dark information, let's laugh a little with volume 15 of Please Excuse My Sense of Humor. So check this out.
If you touch that again, I shall kill you right now. Okay. Do not touch this. This is a no touching zone. Good. Well then. Oh my God! I can't believe you reached across like that again. I can't.
And now I'll be performing one of my favorite songs of all times. A 1, a 2, a 3. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when you're living in a dream. When you're living in a dream.
COVID-19? Oh yeah, I remember that COVID-19. That wasn't no joke. I was sick as hell. What did you live for? Ain't got nothing to do with COVID-19. I blow. What?
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of feeling fine. A machine that's failing by design. Keep my grip on sand.
There are some rules you need to remember as a clown. No smoking, drinking, cursing, chewing gum, and never appear in public in partial clown. You need to design your own face, looking at several different faces. Maybe take one thing from each face and then make a combination of it to create your own face. You want them to say, "Wow, look at that clown."
The idea was to fill a paper bag with fresh animal droppings. The fresher, the better. Then place it on the doorstep. Once done, light the bag on fire, knock on the front door, then run to his backyard. Then, usually the neighborhood grouch, he'd have no choice but to put out the fire. Meanwhile, you'd run to the back door and begin pounding on it. This would cause the startled victim to run back through his home, soiling his fine shag carpeting with animal droppings, while you've made your clean exit. Fasten your seatbelt.
So I hope you guys enjoyed my sick sense of humor. Jake, what was your favorite one? Mike.
Microphone.
Oh man, I think the practical walkthrough for our youth to be able to poop, stash, and burn and get somebody to walk through their house is definitely a pro-societal advancement that we all need.
Well,
and sarcasm is lying, but yeah.
At least they're getting outside and getting some exercise, I guess. Opa, did you have a favorite?
Cat fighting.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all I got for this week's History's Mysteries. Now, before we get into memes, a quick word from our good friend, Kristen. I want to introduce you guys to somebody named Kristen, who's one of the biggest forces behind Skiba News Nation. This is Kristen. She helps us get all the big guests. I understand that you're doing this full time now. So how can people find out how to use your service?
Well, I started Fellow Helper Agency, and you can go to fellowhelperagency.com. And I do any of the behind the scenes, email, getting the interviews, and I do prep work for the shows as well. I do timestamps and moderating.
She is the best with connects. If you like any of our shows, any of our big guests, she's the person to go to. And if you have a channel, definitely go to our website. So go check out fellowhelperagency.com. Now you got some memes for me, Jake?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, meme me up. Meme me up.
Sorry guys, I left my pepperoni nipples memes in my other hard drive, but this week we have this. Maybe Elon Musk can buy Pfizer so we can watch Democrats become anti-vax. The funny thing is that the old party of Democrats used to be the like pro-hippie, alternative health, like pro-breastfeeding, anti, party. And then it's like they morph. We want everything they want to jab into our little scrawny bodies. But yep.
Yeah, that's for sure.
This is political neutrality of PBS questioned after new footage of Elmo keying a Cybertruck. Elmo gonna teach Elon. I can't do it, man. Can you do an Elmo? Say something funny that Elmo would say while keying this car.
I don't know if I'm really good at Elmo, but I'm gonna draw a nice giant swastika all over it, even though I'm being filmed the entire time.
I don't know. It's not very that good. I need to work on my Elmo.
Hey, I thought it was pretty dang close. All right. In the race of life, there's many winners and losers, but just remember that there's some people that were born for a different purpose than you might expect. Here's the meme lord, winning out over the engineer, doctor, lawyer, scientists, and accountants of the world, right? Now, all due to rule become a meme lord, just as we see with Elon Musk himself. Very interesting. All right, so last little video, funny one. Happy Passover to everybody celebrating this weekend, and Feast of Unleavened Bread. But
so do I.
all right. Chag whatever. We will catch you guys next week. Oh, and check out tribethegame.net if you would like a pretty sweet board game. Only have a couple more of my limited edition 1 out of 100 first edition Tribe the Games. It's you know, super fancy, guys. Come on, you got to get your copy at tribethegame.net. And that's all. Thanks, Jeremiah.
All right, thanks, Jake, for another great current news and memes as always. Opa, thank you for another great Opus Corner, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's History's Mysteries and the episode as a whole. Stay awake, not woke, subscribe, and stay tuned. If you like what we do here on Skiba News Nation, please like and subscribe, and also share with others so we can grow the biggest truth-seeking community on the internet. Huge shout out to all of our Patreons out there. If you like bonus content, you want some extra Skiba News Nation stuff, please go to patreon.com/Skiba News Nation.
Son of the legendary lost Jeremiah Skiba.
It's like they don't even want to wake up.